Hi guys, my name is Danielle, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking about my personal experiences with the NHS since moving to England and comparing it a little bit with my experiences in the USA with that healthcare system. Our family does have exciting news. I am expecting our second child, and we are so excited. Our first child we had while we were still living in the USA, and we are planning to have our second child here in England. Most of my experiences with the NHS so far have been limited to pregnancy-related things. Full disclosure, in the USA and here, I don't really love hospitals, I don't love doctors, I don't love appointments, and I kind of avoid them at all costs. Even when we first got here, Matthew immediately registered with a GP, just like you're supposed to. I put it off because I knew myself and I said, there's no way I'm ever going to go to the doctor here. But then baby happened. Just so you know, that is where I'm coming from. I'm not a huge fan of doctors, but here I am, enjoying the hospitals. I feel like I could put a million different caveats here, but essentially, boiling it all down, I know the NHS is so important and it's very precious, and I don't want to hurt it in any way. I am just going to limit this video as best as I can to simply my own experiences. This is not an in-depth analysis of either healthcare system. I just want to get that out of the way right now. However, I do know that I'm entering a really touchy area. Please feel free to use the comment section to describe how horribly I am portraying either or both systems. So let's start off with just some general things I've observed. In the USA, generally speaking, when you walk into a hospital, it feels cold. Not just clinical and sterile, but also cold. Like you layer, you bring sweaters and jumpers and just the whole thing. One of the first things I noticed here was walking into the hospital and it felt warm. I was taking off layers of clothing to be comfortable in the waiting room. Because I'm pregnant, another thing is just it's extra warm in the maternity ward where I go to visit my midwife. I know they have to keep it really warm to keep the babies warm, but I feel like I'm going to be sweating this next baby out. Another thing I noticed, and it may be this way in the USA and I just never noticed, but walking into our local hospital here, there are so many different colors of scrubs. And there are even posters on the wall displaying like how each color is a different role. And I thought that was so cool. I love that. I spent a lot of time studying that chart, over the course of many appointments. I just think it's so fun being able to point different colors out and I know what that person does. This is again coming from my own personal experiences, but after giving birth to our first child, I had some genetic funness kind of just jump in. I was diagnosed with a thyroid disorder, which has been really, really fun. But one of the complications that comes with that is my thyroid needs to be regulated and checked when I'm pregnant. And so this has been the first pregnancy where that would be an issue. I can't speak for every hospital, but one of the most amazing things has been my OB and my endocrinologist meet with me at the same time in the same room for each of my doctor appointments, like my appointments with my consultant. And it's awesome. They both take turns talking to me, they hear each other speak, they both give me different kinds of advice, and they're constantly comparing notes, and it's amazing. That kind of togetherness and communication is so awesome. Whereas in the USA, I've never actually heard of that happening. I would be going to a completely different section of the hospital in order to talk to my endocrinologist, and on a completely separate day, I'd be talking to my OB. And even though they might be comparing notes and reading over each other's notes, it's not in the same room. They're not talking together with me. So I think that's been really, really amazing. Another difference has been just in how appointments are scheduled. Here at the end of my appointment, I'm given a sheet of paper from my doctor saying, I want to meet with you in 8 weeks or 6 weeks. And I bring that to a desk, I hand it to them, and then I go home, and then about a week later, I receive a letter in the mail telling me when my appointment is scheduled. It's kind of cool that all of my appointments are sent to me in the mail, but it is different from what I'm used to. Normally, I would have the next appointment scheduled right away, or I would call and make that appointment and I would know right away. But waiting a week for the letter, it hasn't been bad, it's just different. As far as differences in cost, we all generally know the US healthcare system is a mess. You need health insurance in order to cover medical costs. And most Americans, the vast majority of Americans, do have health insurance, but it can still be really expensive. Most people think the NHS is completely free, which is sort of true. The NHS is primarily funded by taxes, and you pay into your taxes and then you don't really have to worry about it. And for immigrants, people who move here, like us, we pay a health surcharge, which is basically a lump sum for each person coming over. So for us, that would be Matthew, me, and our daughter. And that gives us access to healthcare while we're here for that year. For the entire family to have access to that healthcare, it is quite expensive. It's comparable to giving birth in the USA, like the cost of that. But the wonderful thing is we don't have to worry about it for the rest of the year. Any health issues that go awry for any member of our family, we don't have to worry because we've already paid that lump sum at the beginning of the year. Generally speaking, we have personal friends here who have had these dangerous life incidents, right, where they need to utilize emergency medical services here, and they're able to get exactly the care that they need quickly, and they can walk out of that with no bill. That does not happen in the USA. You'll get care. If you need emergency services, with or without insurance, you'll get the care, but you will also get smacked with a bill. So there is something really awesome about being able to walk out of a hospital and not have to worry about your finances. Wait times. As an American, I have heard a lot of stories about, the stereotypes. People are dying in the waiting rooms, waiting so long to get care. That's not obviously true, right? I will say, and this is only my personal experience here, I have tended to wait a bit longer here than I would normally have to wait in the USA. In the USA, it's normal to have to wait for an appointment. You normally arrive 15 minutes ahead of time, and then you wait probably a little bit past your scheduled appointment time. But it would be abnormal, in my experience, to have to wait longer than 30 minutes. There are always those outlying stories where that's not true, but generally speaking. My experience here is that generally I do have to wait a bit longer on average, but it hasn't been way out there. In fact, normally within an hour of my scheduled appointment time, I'm being seen. The exception to that would be my last appointment where it actually took 2 hours past my scheduled appointment time to be seen. But that's not normally the case, but it is typically a little bit longer. Kind of cool difference has been pregnancy related again, but all of my notes for my pregnancy are in paper form, and they're in this cool folder that I bring with me to all of my appointments, and everybody who sees me, the ultrasound tech, my consultant, my endocrinologist, my midwife, they all make notes in it. And then I get to go home and I get to read the notes, which is exciting, and look up what all those acronyms mean. But it's also so convenient to have the whole thing right there. And at the beginning of every appointment, each person looks through the notes that the previous person has made. It's just a cool system, very different than what I'm used to in the US. And it might just be the pregnancy thing, but in the US, everything's online. So I rarely get to see my notes, and I would never normally see the exact notes that the doctor is writing. In summary, even with all of these differences, I think it all kind of boils down to these two really big similarities. And the first one is the level of care. Level of care has been great, both places, in my experience, right? I've always been able to get the care that I needed when I needed it. And that's saying a lot. The second is the people. Every single time I've gone to an appointment here in the UK, I feel like no matter how long I've had to wait or how stressed the doctors and nurses are, they're always greeting me with a smile. They always answer all of my questions. I don't feel like they're rushing with me. And I think that's amazing. In the US, I also felt like doctors were equally kind and communicative and easy to talk to. And so I feel very blessed in that way, and it really has been a truly wonderful experience. Thank you so much for watching. As always, please feel free to subscribe, like, and comment, along with any comments about how horribly I did. Feel free to also comment maybe some name suggestions for this new little Schaefer. We're so excited about this baby, and we would love to read your name suggestions.